Okay, welcome to the Crow Discovery Project. This is my response to the Huffington Post article, and I was going to include this footage that I shot this morning. We got bombarded with hundreds of crows, and I just wanted to show this footage because so many things are so far out of balance. Part of the reason, besides my name, that I use crow. Here we go. Okay, welcome to the Crow Discovery Project, and as a user who I will thank now, Levon Run, thank you so much for letting me know that Huffington Post had covered me. As people who follow me know, I do not follow news and I don't surf much. So I've been covered 3 times in the past month by news agencies. This is probably the largest. And I would never know that was occurring, to be honest with you, because I'm so busy all the time and so behind. Right now I have 5 edits to get out and probably 100 files to review, so thank you, Levon Run. At any rate, I wanted to address the Huffington Post article, and I will start by saying to Lee Spiegel, thank you so much, sir, for running my clips and getting them out to a wider audience. And I would also like to address a few things because I was not contacted, and I have information that has a bearing on the work I do. So I'm going to go through the article and add what I can add. And I will start by saying that this title, Strange Objects Zipping Across the Moon, I make it pretty clear in the video that I'm relatively certain this object is in Earth orbit and that catching something in lunar orbit, in my opinion, would be a bit like the Holy Grail. I'm not sure that I've done that yet. At any rate, let me jump into the article here, and I'm going to add a few things where I can. In early October, Crow Triplehorn, a frequent moon observer who shoots high-definition videos through an 8-inch telescope, captured intriguing footage of a seemingly unusual object flying above the lunar surface, according to theexaminer.com. Well, I read the Examiner.com's article, and it is unfactual in so many places that I didn't bother to do a response video. First of all, I don't say that this is going across the lunar surface. Again, I state that it's probably in Earth orbit. He also, in that article, states that I did 2 clips on the same object. The 2 clips that are posted are not related to each other. They're 2 independent sightings. Anyhow, moving on. On Triplehorn's YouTube page, he pledges to never run deceptive or misleading clips on this channel. And they go on to say things that I strive to shoot quality. And Mr. Spiegel, I truly appreciate you including that because I have spent an inordinate amount of time trying to keep my credibility in the public eye where it needs to be for any of this stuff to matter, and I never have run a fake clip, and I never will, and that includes deception through editing. I will not do those things. Moving along, and this is the other agency that I believe, well, I'm not sure, I didn't click the link yet, but the Indian International Business Times ran something on me as well. The International Business Times reports that Triplehorn posted 2 video segments, and he speculates that the unusual object doesn't move in a straight line, a normal characteristic of a satellite orbiting Earth, which is actually a fact. I draw a line in the video. I do this on all the objects that I think need this done, and almost every single one of them is in a perfectly straight line for the short half a degree of sky. We can see them while they're backlit by the moon. This object does not. It does not travel in a straight line, and even if it's tumbling, it doesn't matter. It's clearly at distance, which means every little pixel out of that straight line it goes, and I'll cover that later, is a distance, a pretty large distance, and I will cover that. Moving on. Many videos have been posted to YouTube claiming to show a UFO or groups of UFOs flying across the moon, but what are we looking at? To be sure, any object in the sky that cannot be identified could be considered a UFO, but something that looks like a spaceship might actually be a weather anomaly or merely a hoax. The possibilities are endless. Yeah, okay. Moving on. I see nothing to indicate that the object was computer generated. Having said that, the video also lacks anything that would have me believe that the object is something other than a conventional satellite. First of all, I will state for the record that I have never claimed that I'm shooting alien technology on any video I've ever made. I'm shooting these things because very few people are. You cannot look many of these objects up in listed satellites and Stellarium on websites and the other areas we have to go look for them. You can't find them. That's a big reason I do this. And I will cover when I do the pixel distance, I will cover why this is important. Anyhow, this last statement was made by FBI Special Agent Ben Hansen, and I clicked on the link to find out more about Mr. Hansen, but it took me to benhansen.com where they're selling bulletproof backpacks, so I guess not much information there, huh? Moving on. The sun's reflection off the moon backlights the object, and we would expect it to look silhouetted, which it does, Hansen told HuffPost in an email. Regarding the halo light the videographer mentions, a video artifact called pixel bleed or color bleed is quite common, especially when the video is compressed in editing. The result is more noticeable with magnification and appears as if the edges of the objects are blurry or extended beyond the boundaries of each pixel. And I'm going to address this in 2 seconds. Mark D'Antonio of FX Models agrees with Hansen's description of pixel bleed. I call it compression artifacting, but it amounts to the same thing. You get a halo around an object. Well, I'm going to address this, and if anyone would have bothered to contact me, which is why, the only reason I have my Facebook page up, I don't use it. I post some videos there, but it's there so people can contact me. The Nikon camera that I recently purchased was purchased for the quality of the image and because it is a Model E, Nikon D800E. That E is very important in that model of camera at the pixel level does not dither pixels. In other words, it does not blend one pixel to the next, and that is a big deal for what I'm shooting all the time. So that partially addresses what they're talking about. To further address it, in fact, when you do edit in Premiere, which I do, then render it, you are encoding it and you can get pixel bleed. It's a fact. Then when you turn around and do the whole process over again, encoding it up to YouTube, it actually gets a lot worse many times if you don't know what you're doing. There are measures you can take to reduce this. The problem here is, if anyone had asked me, these halos are in the original clip fresh out of the camera, and in many cases the halos are bigger than the object that's actually making the halo. So I'm not prepared to accept this explanation for the halos. I think it's incorrect. So I will move on to the MUFON statement. And I will also state another thing about MUFON. Early on, when I got video that was interesting, doing what I'm doing now, I went to a MUFON meeting. The first time I showed up, they couldn't possibly figure out how to get my digital files to work on their system. So I went home and I came back again. But this time I brought my own equipment, a large screen and a projector system that would project a very large image. I was warned coming in the door that there were agents in there, and I kind of just said, oh yeah, okay, whatever. But that was actually factual. When I got in there, I had run my first video. About 10 seconds in, I was attacked by a TV personality who shows up on Ancient Aliens. And he rode me like a white pony all the way through the time that I was trying to show the members of the audience what I had filmed and what I had learned about it. In short, he derailed it. He completely destroyed the presentation, and so I basically ended the presentation and packed up to leave, and he sat there and tried to do everything he could to get the files. I did not give him the files. And it was at that point that I took a different view of what MUFON is about, to allow that to go on in one of its meetings from such a high-profile personality. At any rate, here's MUFON's statement. I approached this from a different point of view, said D'Antonio, photo and video analyst for the MUFON UFO network. I measured a set distance that the object traveled across the face of the moon and calculated how long it would take to traverse the full moon. Now up to here, this is exactly how I would do it, and my clip that I put up about fast and slow satellites, or fast satellites, slow UFOs, this is exactly what he's doing here, and I agree with the method. From that, timing and distance, the orbital period is exactly half the orbital period for a geostationary satellite, or for geostationary satellites, which stay over the same location on Earth because they orbit the Earth at the exact rate of the planet's rotation. He goes on to say, the satellite caught in this video clearly is at the halfway point to geostationary. So it is around 11,100 miles above the equator, and it is dark because of the silhouette effect of the bright moon while it is in the Earth's shadow. Well, that's exactly why it's silhouetted, but had anyone again bothered to talk to me about the equipment I used, I could add what I'm about to add now. I'm going to start this conversation by showing you that I just looked up how big the International Space Station is. It measures 356 feet across, 290 feet long. Now, having said that, we know that it's about the biggest thing up there. At least that's what we've been told, and we further know that it had to be brought up in pieces and built over a long period of time. So we assume the ISS is pretty much the largest thing up there, right? Well, I took it a step further. I called an optics expert at the telescope shop who is about the most brilliant optics guy I have ever talked to. And what we did was calculations for the exact telescope I used, the exact F10 model, and the exact camera that I used, the Nikon D800E. And so what we did was accept MUFON's calculation that based on the orbital speed, this thing is 1,100 miles above us. But we took it a step further. We calculated how much area in feet a single pixel would cover with my system at 1,000 miles. And then I went and I took a frame out of the video and measured the object. It's 5 pixels wide. That makes this object, if we accept MUFON's number of 1,100 miles, 675 feet wide or long. That's more than double the International Space Station. So now we're talking about a whole other thing, and now people can begin to understand in a solid way why I do what I do. These are anomalous objects, and I just demonstrated it. Now, one thing you'll probably hear is, but wait a minute, there's all that halo, and that halo's not real. Okay, fine. So we'll take the 5 pixels I measured, and we'll throw out 3, and we'll say they were halo. Now, the average pixel, the gentleman at the scope shop said he would actually stand behind and defend 120 to 150 feet per pixel, the value of a pixel. He said that's to include maybe a 2% error in either way. Now, if I throw out 3 pixels, that leaves us with 2 pixels, and I'll use 130 feet as the example. That leaves us with 260 feet, which is 30 feet short of the ISS. So no matter how you slice it, there is one hell of a massive object up there, and to be honest with you, this is one of the smaller ones that I have filmed at this speed. So let's move along. But in this next video segment, Triple Horn attempts to show how another alleged UFO doesn't move in an entirely straight line. I kind of resent this kind of journalism. Alleged UFO. It's not an alleged UFO. We can't identify it. It's a UFO. I have stated many times on my channel that I am not talking about aliens and that the easiest description for these things is technology. And I will not yell alien until I have damn good reason to do so, and short of shaking hands with one, I'm not sure what that would be. At any rate, Hansen and D'Antonio are still unconvinced this is somehow truly unexplained. Well, why? I don't understand. Is that a mindset, or is it based on something? Let's move on. I'm not sure yet that Triple Horn has made the case that it's changing direction. Well, I beg to differ. I drew a perfectly flat line in a video, which I do on almost all these objects when I'm in the editing room, and what you see is the object pull away and then come back in. And when you consider the distance that it probably is from my camera, a single pixel can be quite a distance. So anyhow, that was Hansen's statement. When Earth is moving away from orbiting objects, it can look like they're on an elliptical path, but they're not. There's definitely some atmospheric distortion at play. Well, that's a ridiculous statement. There is always atmospheric distortion at play. You cannot shoot from planet Earth without that being true. So that's kind of a non sequitur. Show me a 20 or 30 degree turn and we may have something. Well, okay. Show me a little green man and we may have something. I don't understand any of that. What it's doing is diminishing the fact that I drew a straight line in an editor, ran the object across it, and showed that it pulls away and pulls back in on 2 occasions. To me, that's evidence. If you want to dismiss it, I suppose that's your prerogative, at any rate. We see a similar case of what is likely another satellite, added D'Antonio. That wavering Triple Horn is calling out could be due to several things. One is that this is a slowly tumbling object, like an old rocket booster, for instance. If so, it may make the path appear to waver, but it would still travel in a straight line. Either way, I'm leaning towards it being another ordinary satellite. Well, I've already showed you that accepting MUFON's calculation for distance, this is one hell of a big object, and we're not aware of any satellites that size. If it's bigger than the International Space Station, how the hell did it get up there, for one? But I would further point out, you can't just say the object might be tumbling and dismiss what's gone on here. I have plenty of objects that look like they're tumbling, yet if I draw a straight line, which I have done, under them or next to them, you can see, in spite of the tumble that appears to be a shape change under these circumstances, that they are in fact traveling a very straight line. So again, this argument is empty. But what really kills me about this particular article is this video that closes it. This video is a hoax. It was proven a hoax because someone produced the original video in this clip without the UFO in it in the correct color. I was in a user group on Facebook, and they had posted this, and this particular group takes quite seriously fakery and fraud, and I pointed out and provided a link that this video had been faked, and they actually went to the guy who posted it, I believe it was the creator, I don't remember now, and a ridiculous conversation ensued, and they ended up removing him from the group. So what has happened here is now they have associated this fraud moon video with my honest to goodness, took me thousands of hours of editing and filming to create legitimate video with a fraud, and that I do not appreciate. As a matter of fact, it really kind of upsets me. This is the kind of thing that goes on all the time, and it's not really excusable. There's no real true journalism here. Either that or it's an intentional smear. I won't go that far, but I don't appreciate known fake videos being run next to my stuff on the same topic, casting dispersion on the work that I have done. At any rate, let me just close here. Okay, in closing, I want to say a couple things. First of all, to the author of this article, I'm not raging at you for that fake video at the end. I don't know who put it there, and I'm not accusing you of putting it there, but I am saying I don't appreciate a fake video being run on the same topic as my blood, sweat, and tears, honest to God work. Having said that, one of the arguments used in this article about rocket boosters and other things like this is debunked by the very statement that MUFON made, for the simple reason that things in low Earth orbit, which rocket boosters and junk would be, are moving so damn fast, and I have shown plenty of satellites in low Earth orbit that we can ID and tell you the altitude on. They cover the 0.5 degrees, half a degree of sky the full moon is, in a second or less. That's because they're in low Earth orbit, which a rocket engine booster, space junk, these things would be in low Earth orbit. And the reason I know this for a fact is because NASA doesn't go outside low Earth orbit, according to their own statements. The space shuttle goes to low Earth orbit. We don't go any higher than a couple hundred miles anymore. We don't do the 250,000 miles to the moon that they once claimed they did. So anyone who makes the argument that this is space junk or old rocket boosters is not doing the footwork, the investigation. These things that are slow are way the heck out there. And I have known that they are large for a long time, and I haven't talked about it that much for a simple reason. Because to make the statement, as we just did with MUFON's calculation, we are assuming these things are in orbit. We're only seeing them for half a degree when they are backlit by the moon. And we are discarding the fact that they may not be in orbit at all. They could be free-flying. If that is true, then these are truly anomalous objects. But that is a very difficult thing to prove. Having said this, I have known for probably close to 2 years that some of these objects are probably gigantic. But to make that statement, you have to claim they're in orbit and then use their speed to show at what altitude in orbit they are, all the way out to geosynchronous. And as a matter of fact, there's even satellites listed that go far beyond geosynchronous out there. So there it is. And I would like to thank the author, Lee Spiegel, for running my content. I truly appreciate it. And I open my door. If anyone wants to ask me questions about the content I shot, you can contact me, and I will tell you what I know. So there it is. There's my response to the Huffington Post, and I hope I've added something of value. Cheers.